Okay, so Naso is the longest parsha in the Torah. At a nice short 176 psukim. Now the end is repetitive, admittedly, when it goes through the Nisiim. But in the longest aliyah that we have in the parsha, wow, it is noisy in the background there. But in the, that's fine. I'm gonna lower this sound coming in from you. That'll help me here.
Yeah, that's fine. We can mute ourselves also.
Oh, yeah, it's fine. Okay. Okay. So the longest of the aliyot is Revi'i. So you get a series of mitzvot there. So I figure I'll pick up on one of those because I think it connects thematically to a lot of things we've talked about in Bamidbar. At the beginning of Perek Vav, you get the laws of the Nazir. Now the Nazir, right? You find out so. There are certain laws which are very unique to the Nazir. He doesn't drink wine, or any grape products, and the like. But there are other things that are not unique, right? Are borrowed from other places. So if you look like in Pesach, the second of the main prohibitions that he has relates to his hair. Right? You have to let his hair grow out, and then in the end you shear it off. And then in Pasuk Vav you get the prohibition of him becoming Tamei Meit, even for any of his relatives. Now those two halachot, and the truth is that even the first halacha remind us of what? This is why turning your sound off fully will remove any conversation here. So muting may not be great. Kohanim specifically, right? If we go through the three, so the first one is the weakest of that, but it's sort of true. Meaning the Kohanim are allowed to drink wine, but they can't drink wine when
they're doing avoda.
Right, when they're doing avoda, as we learned in Parshat Shemini. Now, the issur of becoming tamei to any relatives, even, right, to anyone, even relatives, that's not just Kohen, that's specifically Kohen Gadol. And then the prohibition of cutting hair is not Kohanic, but the notion that when he actually ends his process, he has to shear off his hair, that indeed is Kohanic. That was part of the inauguration, right, of the Levium. Which many have pointed out that these don't seem to be accidental, right? The simple, what Nazir seems to be pointing at is that it is the opportunity for a Yisrael to accept the notion of the at some level the Kedushat Kahuna or something equivalent of Kedushat Kahuna on himself. Even the way you describe even the way you describe the way they put the way they deal with the carbon of his hair essentially, right, seems to point in that direction. Now, again, al regal achad, what is the point of that, right? Why would the Torah have an institution that basically allows the Yisrael to in many ways mimic the Kedushat Kahuna or the requirements of Kedushat Kahuna, right? What does that accomplish? And specifically, why would that appear in Bamidbar of all places?
If you're unable to live as a regular guy, you need a little extra precautions.
Right, so why would that be in Bamidbar?
We just talked about the Kahuna at the end of the parsha, like you mentioned last week.
It's a sort of, but I think it's actually a little bit more precise than that, right? Meaning, the way some people have put it, I gave it to R Jonanthan this yesterday, is that the heroes, so to speak, of Vayikra are the Kohanim proper, right? Are the people who have Kedushat HaGuf, and the action in Vayikra happens in the Mishkan itself. Bamidbar, the religious heroes, so to speak, of Bamidbar, the way the book is framed, are not the Kohanim, they're the Leviim, right? And what's unique about the Leviim is they don't have Kedushat HaGuf, right? They're special insofar, and I can prove this lumdishly at a different point, right? But they don't have Kedushat HaGuf, right? They have no Isurim who they can marry and things like that. What makes them special, to the extent they have Kedusha, is that they have a job, right? They have a job to do in the Mishkan, and that makes them holy. But it's not a Kedusha Aguf, it's a uniqueness. And the Mishkan is not approached primarily as the Mishkan, meaning what happens inside. What is important in Bamidbar is the Ol Moed aspect, is the fact that the Jews, the Machane, is oriented around the Ol Moed. Right? It's not about the Kedusha inside, it's about the way that the average Yisrael relates to the Mishkan in the everyday. And Nazir is related to that theme, though in a reverse way, right? I mean, the Levim and the Ol Moed theme is reminding us that the what? Say it again.
It's a lot better. Before you were coming in like in and out.
Oh, now do you hear me now?
Yeah, it's
Okay. So I'll make it quick then. But basically, right, like the theme of Bamidbar in many ways that we've talked about seems to be that you don't need, right, that there is Kedusha in the mundane, right, in the camp, that God is with them in the camp, and that part of the role of the Mishkan is that even outside the confines of the intense Kedusha of the Mishkan, its messages or its influence or its hashpah, whatever, needs to, right, have impact on the camp, and therefore even on people who are not involved in the Kedusha of the Avodas HaMishkan on a regular basis. Right? And therefore the religious leaders you focus on are the Leviim, who themselves are in terms of their status, are just regular Jews. Right? They don't have Kedusha. And we talk of the Mishkan again in its Ol Moed context, right? The way we camp and the way it orients the way we travel rather than the Kedusha. The Nazir is a sort of reverse of that, right? Which is, but if you're a Yisrael and the Kedusha aspect of the Mishkan really speaks to you and you want a way of tapping into that, we actually do have a mechanism for that. And it's called Nazir, where you can accept Kedusha Aguf that will impose similar limits on you as the Kohanim have by birthright. Right? And those are sort of two sides of the same coin, right? One is that the Mishkan can influence you in the non-sanctified space of the Machaneh, and the other is that if you really want to tap into the Kedusha of the Mishkan, you can't actually be a Kohen, right? But you can devote yourself to God, at least temporarily, in such a way that you can accept Kedusha Aguf on yourself voluntarily and accept Chiyuvim, right? And those are sort of sister messages in Bamidbar, right? Is that the Mishkan and its implications are supposed to have impact outside the confines of the Mishkan. Again, one in the sense that it affects things which are not Kadosh, and the other is that as much as Kahuna is a birthright and cannot be taken on by Yisrael, the possibility of that heightened Kedusha is not totally written out for non-Kohanim. And I think that's why Nazir gets put in Bamidbar, where that is sort of the theme throughout. And we've talked about the fact that some of the other mitzvot in this part, in Naso especially, seem to go in that direction as well, right? Sota is a Mikdash law that overflows out of the Mikdash, right? It's right. If you have a marital problem, you can bring it to the Mishkan to the Mikdash to be solved if necessary. And Birchas Kohanim is a quasi avoda which happens outside the Mishkan, which is a way of which the Kohanim interact with Yisrael, but not necessarily in the Mikdash. So again, a lot of the mitzvot in Naso specifically, and Nazir, I think most among them, point at this intentional blurring of the lines between the Mishkan and the Machaneh.
You say this paints being a Nazir is a good thing then, no?
That Nazir is definitely, I think, look, in Pshat of the Torah, right, Nazir is at least potentially a good institution, right? The Gemara's concern is that it's not good unless it's taken on for the right reasons, right? Even the more sort of hesitant Shita in the Gemara say, well, there could be that one Nazir who did it for the very right reasons. Now, you're right that with this in mind, it may shed light on that machloket, which is right. The positive side, it makes a lot of sense. Like, oh, Nazir is a great thing because you're accepting kedusha. The alternative is to say that no. The fact that Yisrael feels that in order to be spiritual, he needs to accept the, Kedusha akin to the Kohanim, rather than sufficing with, maximizing his own responsibilities outside the realm of the kedusha true from the Mishkan, right? That could be a negative, right? The fact that Nazir is a possibility of rising to the level of kahuna at some level doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing. It could just mean that it's a possibility, but deciding that you need that possibility rather than relying on your normal status is negative. So I think Nazir, it does come across as mostly positive, but you could still read both Shita and the Gemara in light of this analysis and say, right, again, positive would be obvious, and negative would be say, look, why don't you recognize the potential kedusha that is inherent in not being Kohen-like, or not having kedusha haguf, so yeah, I think it's still, there is a positive aspect to it, but you could explain the negative almost equally well in light of the analysis. But now, if I don't let you go, okay, Nachum just said the bus is here, so that's going to be my cue. Okay, enjoy the Yom Yerushalayim Segway tour, and I'll definitely see you tomorrow. I might see you tonight. I'm not sure exactly what I'm doing. Okay, I might see you tonight. I might come if you guys are around. I'll text you later, but I might come and do some learning during the fundraiser. I have a bar mitzvah, so it'd be late. Like it might be I come like 11, 12 o'clock, something like that. If people are around.
I don't know our schedules yet.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll be in touch. I talked to Ray Ginsburg. We'll figure it out. Okay, talk to you later.